So welcome everyone. It's great to see all of you and to see so many old friends in the audience. I want to just spend a few moments talking about why I'm so excited about the Education Rights Institute. But first I will tell you I'm incredibly relieved because of the Education Rights Institute. So Kimberly and I go back a very long way. We work in the same field and have known each other for a very long time, and I begged and pleaded for her to come to UVA for years, and so I was thrilled when she finally said yes. And so I got a call from her, a voicemail from her, I don't know how long ago, it was 6, 8 months, could have been 9 months, saying, I need to talk to you. And normally those calls are not good news. And so I thought, oh no, don't tell me that you're leaving. And so I was thinking, so I called her back and played phone tag for a while, and I called back and she answered, and I was like, tell me you're not leaving. And she said, no, we just got this huge gift to create the Education Rights Institute. And I was like, that's the opposite of leaving. So I am relieved for that reason. I'm also thrilled because I think the work that this institute is going to do is so important. As Risa described, before I did something that I vowed I would never do, which is to become a higher ed administrator, I wrote and taught about law and education. And back in 2010, I wrote this book that Risa mentioned called 5 Miles Away, A World Apart, which literally several people have read. Some of them outside of my family. I would say the main thesis of the book was save the cities, spare the suburbs. And the point was that there have been numerous educational reform efforts focused on mostly urban areas. But each one of those reform efforts, whether it's through desegregation, school finance reform, or school choice, had one thing in common, which was that no matter what happened within the urban areas, the suburbs would be left alone. That is, there would be no sacrifice required of suburban autonomy, suburban resources. So if you look at school desegregation, the Supreme Court eventually became quite aggressive in ordering integration until time came to have integration across school district lines. Then they made it next to impossible to desegregate the Detroit metropolitan area, which would have required including the suburbs. Then if you look at San Antonio versus Rodriguez, the leading school finance case in the US Supreme Court, they ruled that it does not violate the Constitution for there to be unequal funding across localities, and that they could not order equalization across school districts based on the tradition of local control. If you look at the realm of policy rather than law, and you look at most school choice programs, especially or if you just focus on public school choice programs, most, if not all of them, allow for some school choice, but most of it is within the same district. Now, this was 13 years ago. The world has gotten a little bit more complicated. The suburbs have become more diverse. It's slightly messier. It's not as neat as it might have been 13 years ago. But the fundamental cause of a lot of these disparities is because of the tradition of local and state control. Education is left to the states and left to localities. And so if you want to understand why there are so many disparities, why there are opportunity gaps, why the resources are different, you have to recognize that that's a key part of it. So you have vast inequalities in resources within states, so across school districts, but you also have vast inequalities across states. Well, obviously the root cause of that is because some states have more resources than others, and some states care more about education than others. And typically people would say, well, there's no solution to this because the only possible solution to this would be a federal right to education, and most people stop right there, but not Kimberly. And that's the genesis of the Education Rights Institute. So this institute is going to be important because I know part of it will be focusing on research that really explains the impact, not just to individuals and their families, but to the rest of society because of these opportunity gaps in education. It will also work with school districts so that they understand both the opportunities and the responsibilities under current federal law, and it will have scholarship devoted to making the case for a federal right to a high-quality education. None of this will be easy, but if there were anyone I would bet on in terms of being able to make a dent and make progress on this, it is Kimberly. Like I said, we have known each other for quite a while. She is a graduate of UVA, where she was an Eccles Scholar, and is a cum laude graduate of Harvard Law School. As Teresa mentioned, she worked in the Department of Education and then as an education attorney with Hogan and Hartson. She has been a chaired professor here and is a prolific scholar, but also an outstanding teacher, and recently won an all-university teaching award. I don't know anyone who works harder. I don't know anyone who cares more about the importance of the issues that she writes about. And I don't know anyone who cares as much about actually making a difference on the ground. So she is exactly the right person to be running this institute. And it is an honor to be here to celebrate the launch of an institute and celebrate my friend and colleague, Kimberly. So I will turn it over to you now. Thank you.